Welcome to our session, One Digital Government Solution, Breaking Down the Silos of City, County, and State Agencies. My name is Caroline VanDeusen. I am Managing Director here at PayIt, and we specialize in launching citizen-facing digital government web and mobile applications. I'm celebrating my 10-year anniversary in the GovTech industry and working exclusively with government as diverse as they are from a population, geographic, socioeconomic, and cultural standpoint. One thing I know to be true is that they have a need to serve citizens and serve them well. So we have a great panel for you today of leaders and digital innovators from across the country. They are cities and counties that have launched the PayIt platform and have worked with us to continue to innovate and improve our solution. So first, I'd like to introduce to you the City of St. Louis. They are a cornerstone local government client for PayIt. They were early adopters and took a chance on us doing business with a very young company. So I'd like to introduce you to Rachel McClure. She is assistant collector for the city, and her primary responsibility is oversight of collection for water and refuse revenue. Prior to coming to the city, she was actually an English educator in Mexico City, so she also doubles as a Spanish translator for her department. So excited to have her today. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then we have Amir Softic. He has been with the city. He is IT manager. He's been with the city for over 13 years.
Good morning, everyone.
So thanks, Amir. Thanks for joining today. I know you work really hands-on with the solution on a regular basis. And then we have our elected official, Treasurer Maria Walls. She is from Beaufort County, South Carolina. So Maria was elected in 2015 prior to coming to public service. She is C.P.A, so she worked as auditor and accountant. She was the very first in her state to launch e-billing after a statute was passed. So utilizing the PayIt platform, so that's been a really exciting evolution for us to see. Hi, Maria, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to join you guys.
Yes, excellent. And then we also have Alan Howze. He is Assistant County Administrator and Chief Knowledge Officer for the Unified Government of Wyandotte County and KCK. And so again, a very early adopter of PayIt. His instance of PayIt is an award winner and is really a great example of breaking down the silos of digital government, because within his application, you can report a pothole, pay your property tax at the county, and even roll up to state of Kansas services and renew DMV vehicle registration renewal. So very excited to have you, Alan. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Caroline. It's great to be with you today. I've got my COVID beard here too, if you don't.
Yeah, we've got, so we, yeah. Yeah, it's looking good, looking really good. We've got COVID masks from the city of St. Louis, and then the COVID beard. So a little bit about PayIt. We are Kansas City-based technology company, and we bring government and people closer together through technology. So we improve citizen access by digitizing transactions and reducing manual processes. And what that means is when a citizen comes to a website or a mobile app to do business with a government, sometimes it's confusing. Are they trying to pay a collector, or is it a utility department? Is the utility part of the city? Do I go to the county? Do I go to the state? And so we help solve for that by launching applications that, again, offer services for multiple departments and agencies, and even in my WICO's instance, multiple government levels. 2020 is one for the books. No other time in history that I've lived through, with so many COVID challenges, working with government, staffing issues, citizens calling, trying to figure out how to do business. Are things open? Where do I go? Trying to adhere to social distancing and capacity rules, being contactless and cashless. And we've really just tried to hang in there with our government clients and help them continue to serve citizens. And some of these statistics here, almost 60% of IT decision makers say the effects of COVID are accelerating their digital transformation efforts. And we also know that governments are going to be experiencing massive budget shortfalls. And we do know there has been some initiatives from the federal government to help out local governments, but really a really big shortfall, no way to make up for that delta. So our clients have been launching new solutions through the pandemic, and then citizens are utilizing those solutions and going online more. And so it just makes sense to talk to our clients about how they've achieved that. I'm going to start out by talking with each one of our clients about challenges that they faced pre-pandemic in collecting revenue digitally online and through mobile devices, how they found PayIt, and some of their proudest moments. So I'd like to start with the city of St. Louis, how you found PayIt, what were some of your challenges, and some of your proudest moments.
Yeah, good morning. So I believe we heard about PayIt in 2015 from one of our aldermen. And at that point in time, we had a system that was in use for 20 something years. And the system was not mobile friendly. It didn't have any kind of account verification. So it's more of a blind pay. There were issues with different branches were separate and how they report and how the payment portals were set up. And so we started kind of seriously looking in 2015. At that point, we kind of start hearing about PayIt, basically a startup at that point.
So one of the ways that PayIt helped us face those challenges of like our web page not being mobile friendly was they brought us the app. So not only do we have this app, but we also have a web page that you can go to that is optimized for viewing on a tablet or phone, which before was like you had to zoom into this tiny little box and try to type it. And it was frustrating for our customers. And also we can have push notifications for new bills. Customers can enroll for reoccurring payments now, so they don't have to worry about like their water bill. You don't even have to think about it anymore. It's just going to draft automatically. So that was really a proud moment for us. But one of my most proud moments was my cousin was like, dude, have you seen this new PayIt app? And I said, hey, I was part of that. And she was like, well, I love it. I just paid it by taxes and it took me 20 seconds. So I was like, well, I'm glad, you know? So.
Yeah. And actually Rachel pays her water, even though she works here, she pays it through PayIt.
I do.
So yeah.
I don't have checks.
And you know, another issue that we had with our previous vendor was basically a lack of response, and any kind of timetable that we set out was just kind of ran over, and we ended up with having the same system for longer and more complaints, and finally we started to work with PayIt, and then we liked them. We took a chance. Obviously, at that point, it was a very small company, and PayIt brought all services together under one app, which is simply amazing. And not only that, but they also brought another service and our city courts as well into it. And you know, as time goes, maybe some more. There's also push notifications. There's payment history, bill history, things like that our end users really like. And scheduled payments, things like that. All your payment types can be saved in your wallet. I mean, it's a pretty amazing stuff here, and the response back has been really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. You know, again, working directly with government, it's always rewarding to put a solution out into the world that helps make their life easier and create some efficiencies. But then it's just icing on the cake when you get that citizen feedback, right? And I will say that St. Louis citizens are pretty active on Twitter, and we'll have like technologists, you know, tweet or send in, you know, an email to our support team, and they're like, hey, I'm a software engineer, I'm out of St. Louis, I work for a gaming company, I think it's Riot Games or something like that that's located in St. Louis, and they're like, this was really cool. So for us, Rachel and Amir, both your point about you know, being mobile friendly and mobile adaptable is so incredibly important for even, you know, consumer grade technology. So again, appreciate that very, very much. So I'm going to go ahead and lob it over to you, Maria. You know, challenges that you were facing there at the county. How did you find PayIt? And then, you know, how did we help solve for some of those challenges?
Well, similar to the other panelists, and we had antiquated technology. Our customers were definitely able to pay online, but the experience was not simple, convenient, easy to follow. And, you know, that's a challenge when you're trying to serve the public and you just need the payments made. Now, a little different for us as far as the motivator. The biggest portion of our operating budget is personnel and postage. And in my mind, a postage stamp does not provide any service to our customers. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars on postage with no options to minimize that in the near future. I mean, the post office is going to probably in the future continue to raise the cost of a stamp, which means our operating costs go up, which means taxes go up, and now we're impacting our customers. So the driver for me, more so in this relationship that we've started with PayIt, is not just to provide better payment services for our customers, but to also cut down on those expenditures that, again, to me, provide nothing to the customer. When they can get delivered an e-bill just as easily, if not more conveniently, and at a lower cost than a postage and a paper bill. So how we found out about PayIt is I enjoy learning from other people, and I happened to be speaking to an acquaintance who knew about PayIt, and I was just saying just some of the frustrations of these budgetary costs and our statutory requirements to provide notice. And at the time, it was not permissible by South Carolina law to send an emailed bill instead of a paper copy bill in the mail. And I was working with our local delegation to get that fixed. But I knew that once that occurred, once that new law passed, I needed an option. I mean, I wanted to get that done. And he said, I know this great company out in Kansas City, you need to get to know them. We ended up doing an RFP. PayIt was a proposer, and I already knew they could fulfill our needs for right now. But I really believe that we're here, all of us in government at every level, to lay the foundation for what the future is going to be built on. My end vision for Beaufort County is that our customers pay everything through one easy and convenient app and website, no matter what they need to pay, whether it's taxes or business license fee, whatever that is. And one of the questions I asked PayIt during that process was, this is great, you can collect taxes. Can you do other things? And the answer was absolutely. And for me, that was a deal breaker. I mean, that was just, we're ready to go. When can we start? And it's been incredible for Beaufort County.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, Maria. And I know, again, as an early adopter and rolling out e-billing, it helped shape our platform. So our applications that are out in the world today for Shelby County, Tennessee, and Jackson County, Missouri, and some counties in North Carolina, they look and feel the way that they do because of the input from your staff. So it's been excellent. And can you talk a little bit about how statutory and policy does impact how you serve your citizens sometimes?
I mean, I have to start with relationships because that's the cornerstone of everything we do. I'm a treasurer. I don't pass laws. I can't even vote for one. That's not what I do. And because of relationships, I was able to convey what our ultimate goal would be in South Carolina to our delegation. And to their credit, one of our state senators, he was already on that page and pursuing that. And again, because of relationships, we ended up getting paired up so that we could write the legislation in a way that served local governments and the customers in the way that ultimately benefited everyone, which it does. You're sending an e-bill and not a hard copy bill, you're saving money. Whether it's the government saving money, it's the taxpayers' money, at the end of the day, it's a win-win for everybody. And we were required by law to mail a bill. It specifically said that. Now, ultimately, in the tax collection process, if someone doesn't pay, there is delinquent process and consequences to that. We couldn't pursue any of that delinquent collection if the first step, mailing of the bill, was not adhered to. So we had to continue mailing that paper bill, whether we had used PayIt or not, unless the law was changed. And everything really came together at our state level, and our legislature passed that bill. And I really think it's been transformational for the state of South Carolina. Mm-hmm. So when we got to that implementation process, we were moving from the Stone Ages practically to today's technology. And you're absolutely right. That was a challenge. It was a challenge, but a challenge worth tackling.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, how statutes can impact and policies can impact projects like this. Definitely. And moving over to Alan, again, challenges that you were facing there in Wyandotte County. How did you find PayIt? And then, some of your proudest moments.
Sure. Well, thanks, Caroline. And I think, Maria kind of hit it right on the head, which was relationships are the kind of the driver for successful projects and successful service delivery. And that is kind of how we found PayIt. When I arrived a little over 4 years ago, the unified government, which is a combined city-county. So we have the tax collection duties of a county, and we also have the full array of city services. So it makes for an interesting and sometimes challenging environment. We're also a diverse community of about 165,000 with a median household income that's really just above 40,000, and has been significantly hit, as other communities have, by COVID and the effects of that. So we were looking for how can we provide high quality digital services, and thinking that it's not something that should just be kind of a luxury, that it's really a necessity. And if you look at the rates of smartphone ownership, all the way back, this latest data was 2018, nearly 80% of Americans own a smartphone. That's only gone up since then. People over the age of 65, about half of them have smartphones. And if you look at people whose household income is below 30,000, nearly 70% of those have smartphones. So if you want to provide high quality services that meet people where they are, it's really incumbent on us as service providers to provide those digital services that are convenient and easy to use. I'd heard about the state of Kansas app and the conversations that PayIt was having with the state of Kansas. And then from our conversations with PayIt, recognized that there was an opportunity to really try something new, something that hadn't been done before, which was to provide both local and state services on the same platform. Because the line between what is a state service and what is a local service is blurry at best. And in fact, in Kansas, the counties have responsibility for executing some of the functions that are actually state functions, some of the motor vehicle functions and other things. So it's certainly not clear for residents and businesses as to who is responsible for what. And so we wanted to make it as simple as possible. And we also wanted to avoid kind of a proliferation of apps at the local level. So we didn't want to have one app for this thing and for 311 and one app for payments. So we were able to work with PayIt and design a single app, the MyWICO app, that we've been able to then layer multiple services on. And this includes 311 services, so people can report things like a pothole, and that gets relayed to our 311 group. But then also the full functionality of a payment system that allows for property taxes, allows for motor vehicle payments, and increasingly, as we've seen through COVID, we're able to stand up a number of payment services very quickly with PayIt's very flexible and adaptive platform. So we've rolled out just under 20 new online payment services, and that's really a way to meet people, again, where they are. And because our offices were closed for a while with limited access, it really was incumbent on us to provide additional options and ways for people to get their business done without having to come into City Hall. And so that's really it's been a great partnership and a great relationship. And I guess one of the other things is, in terms of relationships, was building those relationships across departments. So we have had a decentralized IT model where departments had ownership of core systems. So the Treasury system was owned by the finance group, 311 had its system, And so it made interoperability and data integration a real challenge. And one of the things that was really appealing about PayIt, and it continues to be, is that it allowed us to lay really high quality, intuitive digital services, on top of those legacy systems, and then feed the data that was coming off of PayIt into those legacy systems, and worked very closely with PayIt to do that kind of data integration on the back end, which has saved our staff tremendous amounts of time. We were able to quickly roll out My Wyco app, so it launched the first within 90 days of starting to work with PayIt. And we saw a significant increase in online payments in the first year. We launched it kind of right at the start of our fall tax season. Then the following year, we saw the first sort of full year of payments, and we saw double and triple digit increases in digital revenue that was coming in. And it's only continued to grow from there. So it's really been a lot of fun to watch. So I guess I'll pause there and again look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing up cybersecurity. So PayIt is a platform that is hosted at AWS and the Gov Cloud. And so with that comes, additional layers of cybersecurity, and unbelievably so, ransomware attacks on cities have actually gone up since the onset of pandemic. So again, just trying to really bring value. Obviously, the citizens is at the center of everything that we do, but also trying to offload, whether it's manual processes and some of that cybersecurity that's built around the solution in the cloud, and then P2PE at the point of sale. So I think the common theme that's kind of woven through all of your stories is the access to mobile services, right? So that whether it's the browser on the phone or a tablet or the actual native mobile app is important. And then relationships, getting the different agencies and departments within your entities to work together and collaborate on these projects, because, it does take a good amount of testing and work with the technologists to launch these projects. So appreciate that very much. And so the next topic I'm going to touch on, I think this is a nice segue into, expansion, right? These applications aren't built in a day. We usually start with one or two services that, there's a critical need, right? There's a payment processing contract that's expiring. They need a new service provider, or there's something that's not online and government entity wants to bring online quickly. But then the platform is built over time. So I'm just going to continue with you, Alan, about, kind of where did you start and which services were first, and then how did you build on, I know you had mentioned some of those early services, and then what's in the future for you?
We've really looked to our treasury team, who have been fantastic partners in this under the leadership of Andrea Parra, the deputy treasurer there, who have really identified and flagged and said, well, we can do this online, or we don't, let's do this, that's next. And so the team has really then kind of grabbed ownership, if you will, of driving online payments and begin to kind of march through in a what the online payments could be for different services. And then COVID hit, and there was kind of that initial sort of pause, if you will, and then it only started to accelerate, and they begin to really field requests from departments saying, how can we do this? How can we meet our customer demand? And really, they've been just sort of flying out the door with the services that are rapidly configurable, and they've got, like I said, 19 services live, and they've got 3 or 4 more that are kind of in the hopper. So, over, you're talking 3 or 4 services a month that have been rolled out since the start of COVID. And it's really due to the sense of ownership and leadership that the Treasury team has taken.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, it's been nothing short of remarkable to see how your agencies and staff have come to the table with the COVID response to launching services. So again, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to St. Louis, the continued partnership, and what were we able to expand service-wise, functionality-wise with the app. I know CH was a big deal for your department, and also I think it's PayIt Voice. So if you want to kind of touch on some of those and also other future state things.
Sure, I can start with PayIt Voice. So Kind of bouncing off of what Alan said of meeting the users where they are is we brought them, you know, the mobile app and we brought them the responsive web page, but we were still seeing a lot of IVR payments being made on our old service. So we contacted PayIt and we were wondering if we could get this switched over, and it wasn't really something that PayIt had launched yet. But working together, and PayIt came through with PayIt Voice. We've got that set up now for our utility users, and it's actually launching on the 14th for our personal property taxes and our real estate taxes. So that's next Monday. We're super excited about that, just in time for the tax season. But we've only had it, we launched it in June for our water and refuse collections. And since then, we've already had 2,300 users submit payments via the IVR system. And we've collected over $375,000. So that there shows us that, you know, this is something that while we want to push technology and we want to have all those options accessible to our residents, we still need to be accessible to people who aren't that comfortable with it. And PayIt's helped us meet that demand. And using PayIt, it allows us to still import those reports without having to manually process these payments like we were having to do before. So again, that saves us time and resources and just kind of streamlines all of our processes, which is a big help.
The biggest thing for us with ACH is that PayIt handles the disputes. We don't want to handle disputes. So that's something that I believe we tried with our previous vendor with ACH and just failed miserably, honestly, just because of disputes. You know, we have a confidence in payments through ACH with PayIt, and we can, you know, continue to use it and hopefully keep improving and adding more services that use ACH as well.
Yeah, we're getting ready to launch prepayment for water, which we're excited about too. So
going over to Maria, again, you know, you touched on the partnership that we've had and expansion and how we're able to implement e-billing. You know, you want to touch on maybe what's next, what's in the future for your payment options for your citizens.
I think when we first started working with PayIt, it was the provision of an online payment option. But interestingly enough, before the pandemic started, we had begun discussing internally, you know, why should we have a teller at a counter accepting a credit card payment when it can be done online? Because we're footing the bill for two options that ultimately end in the same result: a credit card payment and a payment is made. So if we can gain efficiencies by pointing people to my Beaufort County, why shouldn't we do that now? And I think all of the panelists have talked about comfort level. We want to meet our customers where they are. We want to give them the freedom to choose the options that are best for them, but we don't want redundant services. So if someone feels better coming into our office, why don't we use that opportunity to have a kiosk, even if it's just an iPad, because that's ultimately what it is, and an iPad with My Beaufort County, and our team members, instead of perhaps taking that credit card payment and processing it for that customer, take the opportunity to walk them through My Beaufort County, offer to help them sign up for e-billing if that's something they would like to do, but ultimately have them engage with My Beaufort County in an environment, in an office that they were already coming to and are comfortable with. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're the experts, right? So they might feel more comfortable venturing into using that technology if they have assistance and just kind of cheerleaders say, hey, why don't you try it this way? Because ultimately, the more people that engage with My Beaufort County, the less we will have to spend on salaries and personnel. And I'm a very open leader. We talk to my team about it all the time. I really think the goal of our team is to grow ourselves out of a job, because we're just processing payments. We want to do that as efficiently as possible. So we started with the iPads before COVID started. And they were great. They're really working great. Unfortunately, then, as I'm sure many government entities, our buildings closed to in-person interactions with the public. So we're still available by phone, we're still available online. And the reason I really believe that we have been so successful in collecting in the midst of all of this uncertainty and change is because, again, we laid the foundation before. We laid the foundation so that our future, which is now and the time we're moving into, of course, could be built on something strong and successfully built. So the iPads were great. We're in the process of looking at putting them in our physical locations and partnering with PayIt so that we can provide contactless payment services at our buildings. And the goal is that they be accessible from the outside of the building so that our customers can access them at any time, day or night. We do have a portion of our community that may want to use technology but doesn't have ready access to it or reliable internet service. This would allow them the ability to interact with Beaufort County, my Beaufort County, make their payments, take care of their tax matters at our building, but at their convenience. So, you know, when you guys have said we're partners in achieving future goals, I mean, you truly have been a partner. We've laid a good foundation, and it's exciting to look to the future now at how we can move forward and again continue building on the convenience and the successful implementation we've had for our customers.
You know, you couldn't articulate your fiduciary duty better, I don't think. And again, you know, your staff and your team, true partners from the standpoint, always fun to hear about those moments, the little moments of inspiration.
When you love what you do, you can find that anywhere.
Yeah. And so we can't round out this conversation without talking about the pandemic, without talking about the almost insurmountable challenges that local governments are, and they're on the front lines, right? We work with state governments as well. State government is also dealing with the pandemic, but local governments are closer to the citizen. So Maria, I'm just going to continue with you with your COVID response, again, seeing, you know, almost inexplicable challenges that our local governments have had to experience, and what are your biggest COVID challenges, and how have you launched new digital services through the pandemic?
I think our biggest challenge is, as a society, accepting that normal, or the old normal, is just not there anymore. Mm-hmm. It may return. I'm not a fortune teller, so I can only deal with it right now. And we continue, our buildings continue to be closed to walk-in customers, and having to continue to reiterate that almost every aspect of our lives has been changed by COVID. Your experience with local government is going to change too. I mean, governments are slow to change and slow to adapt, maybe as a stereotype, but we're still going to be, everything is affected by COVID. And so that's been a challenge for us. We've had people wait to pay their tax payments because, well, the building wasn't open. And we've had this technology for quite some time now. Like I said, we're hoping we can work on the kiosk, but we were really poised to pivot very quickly to deal with the building closure. Ultimately, as far as COVID's concerned, that has been the largest effect on our operations. We have more than 200,000 residents in Beaufort County, but having Hilton Head, we have a lot of tourism, a lot of property owners who do not live locally. So people choose the payment method that was working best for them, but getting the information out there of, hey, you can't walk in, but use my Beaufort County. It's available 24/7. You can use a post office box. I can't tell you how many people have asked, why don't you have a drop box? Well, a blue mailbox is a drop box. You can put your payment in there if you don't want to use technology. So definitely acceptance of our environment right now. That's been a challenge. I think that's a challenge for everybody. And
Certainly.
how we really overcome that is proactive communication. We're very active on social media. We definitely emphasize my Beaufort County repeatedly. Our staff is doing that on our phone calls. So our collection rate is higher than last year. We have less delinquencies than last year, and total dollars we've collected more than we did last year at the same time. And I truly believe that that is because we already had convenient payment options and avenues already in place. We didn't wait for a pandemic to happen to implement that. And again, we had a great foundation for our property tax payments in my Beaufort County. And now the other departments are able to pivot faster because of that foundation that we laid with PayIt.
Is your overall increase in tax collection up, or just the digital part?
Everything is up.
And that's amazing. That's remarkable.
Our digital interaction, our online payment options in my Beaufort County is staying above, before COVID started, our walk-in traffic. That is the trend that we want to see. And obviously with COVID occurring, that trend has been magnified now. But this past year is the first time our digital transactions have exceeded our walk-in traffic.
Well, thank you for those statistics. Those are really, really powerful and speak for themselves, really. So St. Louis, if you could touch on, I know you have a massive amount of account holders there. I believe it's half the adult population there of the city of St. Louis are account holders for the platform. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think that the adoption has been incredible. I do believe it's over half a population. I think we're looking around 140,000 accounts right now. And the main goal when we did deploy this, we didn't want to just have everybody create the user ID and password, which is just incredibly frustrating and hard to remember. It's just another username and password I have to use. So sign in with the Google account or Apple or Facebook. It's just the easiest. And also when you add up your services, you add your address or your account number, then it sticks there, it stays, and then it will push notify you if there is a bill that's due. Of course, in like case of water and refuse, you can see the payment history, billing history, things like that, which are, incredibly important to us and to our customers. But yeah, I do believe most everyone is really happy. They use it continuously. Even folks in this office, they'll work in property tax and still pay property tax with PayIt, which is incredible.
And I think one of the other things that our users really enjoy about the app is that if you own 15 properties, you can put all of them up there, pull them all up at once, and pay them together. You don't have to do 15 different transactions. And for your water bills, you get, your notification. You can lump them all together and pay them in one transaction, which isn't something that we had offered before. So this is really convenient. We've gotten a lot of good feedback on that, is that, when you mail someone a bill and they own 15 properties, they get 15 bills in the mail. So instead of just being able to pay them together and not write 15 checks is huge. So
yeah. And again, we with the COVID response, we launched our Earnings Tax Express page where you can take the online payments for earnings tax. But we do plan to move that over soon enough into a full app and have it interact and have that history and notification and everything else that our other services offer.
So the earnings tax is something that we collect here. It's a 1% tax on the earnings of anyone who lives or works in the city of St. Louis. It makes up 1/3 of our city's budget, and all the money goes directly to city services. So this year, with the deadline got pushed back from COVID, we followed the state and federal guidelines and moved it from April 15th due date to July 15th. But we were closed during that time. And what we offer is, one, we didn't have earnings tax online payments were not an option. So we only had in-person payments or through the mail. And when people would come to pay in person, we have booth auditors who would help these people find out how much they owe, to fill out their returns and make sure that they're paying us the correct amount. So that wasn't an option. I mean, we had the booth auditors still available by phone, but for them to put in their payment, they would have to mail us a check. So working with PayIt and the express pages, we were able to get an earnings tax express page up in like really pretty quickly. And it's been a huge success. I think as of like recently, we've collected over $775,000 in payments since we launched that express page just for the earnings tax service.
Yeah, it's incredibly important. I mean, first day, I remember an ACH payment for $25,000. So we plan, again, to take this further. We're not going to stay even with the integration of earnings tax within the app itself. We're going to go ahead and elevate our services so that you can file or e-file returns with PayIt, upload your W-2 and pay at the same time, and that information will be transmitted over to us, where we'll audit it and accept the payment.
And because of the safety through PayIt, these people will be confident that while they're sending us their, tax returns or their W-2, this is all confidential and it's all secure.
For the audience, when we're talking about PayIt Express, so we have, when we launched the PayIt platform for a brand new client, our timeline is typically 90 to 120 days after we have access to data, right? So after we either receive API documentation or, flat file formats, things like that, we can usually build it 90 to 120 days. And then Amir, you mentioned, yes, we can throw out PayIt Express quickly to accommodate, permits or, or in your case, earnings tax, which again, when it's a third of the city's budget, I mean, it's just really important to be able to collect that payment type, that revenue stream when offices are closed. And so Alan, 19 services, COVID, how did that happen?
Well, I think, as Maria said, and others have noted, we had the foundation in place, and that was really kind of critical to the ability to move quickly. So we had both the relationships internally across departments, as well as the strong relationship with PayIt, and basically the flexibility and freedom for our teams to be creative and to say, go forth and do good and help solve these challenges. And so one of the very first payments that was set up as a result of the pandemic was for Meals on Wheels donations. Not that really has anything directly to do with how our dollars generally flow within local government, but it was a recognition that food needs were something that quickly rose to the top for a number of households in our community. And so the ability to say, this is something we can do and we can help with. And on that very first day that launched, somebody anonymously made a $1,000 donation to Meals on Wheels. And so, that's the sort of, again, the creative spirit that the teams were approaching this. And then another big area was really around kind of our economic development and trying to make sure that those efforts didn't really grind to a halt. So, all permitting fees and inspection fees and those sorts of things that are part and parcel of the development process, it was important that those continue, and even in light of closing the physical locations. And so the ability to quickly stand that up was part of our overall effort to make sure that the economic development efforts continue even in light of the double-digit unemployment that we were seeing.
Yeah, it's remarkable for sure. And I know that your county in particular, again, so many of the governments that we work with at the city, county, and state level are so incredibly diverse. I do know that your county has been hit incredibly hard. I'm in Johnson County, Kansas, and so we do know just north of Wyandotte County has been hit even harder by the pandemic than we have. And so your response to that has been, nothing short of remarkable. So, just the impact that these solutions can have on the lives of your citizens is just, we'll look back on this time and really, really be amazed, I think, that on how our society made some lasting changes, both in our private lives and our professional lives. So, as Maria mentioned, really changed everything, right? Right. So thank you, panel, so much, each one of you, for spending time. I know you're all so busy. Your schedules are packed, and I know this was an investment in time and energy, so appreciate it so much. Again, my name is Caroline VanDeusen. You can reach me at caroline@payitgov.com. I'm also on Twitter, Caroline and KC, so you can also send me a message, any of the participants. And so if you have any more questions about digital government, surviving a pandemic, and offering citizen-facing web and mobile apps. So thank you, everyone, so much for your time today, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
Thank you.